She said it half smiling, half daring. You know how to make things spin? And for a second, the air between us felt heavier than the quiet hum of the broken washer. I'd been crouched on the tiled floor, wrench in hand, pretending to focus on a loose pipe that wasn't really the problem. She stood behind me, barefoot, her perfume faint but deliberate, like something she'd once worn for someone who noticed things. The light from the window caught her hair, softening the silver at her temples, and I remember thinking it wasn't fair how certain people carry time so gracefully. Does it always make that sound? I asked, half to distract myself. Only when I overfill it, she said, a small shrug in her voice. Story of my life. I looked up then, and she was watching me, not shyly, not boldly, but with the kind of patience that made me feel like I'd already said too much. Her hands rested on the edge of the counter, fingers tapping without rhythm. She wasn't wearing a ring. I noticed that before I even noticed the washer. The silence stretched, the kind that doesn't need to be filled, but still presses against your chest. When I turned the wrench, the pipe groaned. She leaned a little closer to see, her voice lowering. You're good with your hands. It wasn't flirtation, not really, just a comment. But her tone wrapped around it in a way that made me forget what I was tightening. I said something stupid, my dad taught me, and she smiled, not at the words, but at the awkwardness I couldn't hide. You remind me of someone, she said. Someone who used to fix things too. Used to. Her eyes flicked down, then away. He stopped trying. I didn't ask who. I didn't need to. The room was too small for both of us, and everything unsaid. The steady drip from the washer filled the quiet, marking time we both refused to acknowledge. When I stood up, she stepped back just enough to make it seem accidental, but her shoulder brushed mine. A tiny, unintentional spark, or maybe not. I caught the faintest scent of something floral, something nostalgic, and it made me want to stay longer than I should have. She handed me a towel, fingers grazing mine just a moment too long. You've got grease on your wrist, she said softly. Thanks. Her gaze lingered. Not on my wrist. Not really anywhere. More like she was trying to decide if she should say something she'd regret. So, I said clear in my throat, it should work now. She tilted her head, that same almost smile returning. You fixed it faster than I expected. I shrugged. Guess I had the right tools. That earned a quiet laugh, but her eyes stayed on me. You're too young to say things like that. I didn't mean, didn't you? She interrupted gently. Not accusing, not teasing, just aware. The washer clicked behind us, starting its cycle, the slow rhythm of water and motion filling the silence. She turned toward it, arms crossed, voice lower now. You really do know how to make things spin. I could have said something. I should have. But my mouth went dry, and all I could do was watch her reflection in the glass door of the machine, her face half lit, half hidden by the swirling water. Then came a knock, sharp, sudden, from the front door. Her expression froze. One heartbeat, too. Stay here, she whispered. And before I could answer, she was gone, footsteps fading down the hall, leaving me with the hum of the washer and the echo of everything she didn't say. The knock from the front door lingered longer than it should have. When she came back, her voice was steady, but her eyes weren't. Whoever it was, whoever made her take that extra breath before speaking again, left something behind in the room, even after the sound of the door faded. Sorry, she said, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. My sister. But her tone didn't match the words. It was too careful. I nodded, pretending to check the washer again. Everything's running fine now. She stood across from me, leaning against the counter like she didn't know what to do with her hands. You always this quiet? I almost laughed, only when I don't know what to say. That made her smile, faint but real. Then maybe I should stop asking questions. You don't have to, I said. Too quickly. Her gaze flicked to mine, curious. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The low thrum of the machine filled the gap, spinning clothes and thoughts I couldn't untangle. There was something about her stillness, the way she held herself like she was afraid to move too much, or maybe too little. I wanted to ask if she was okay. Instead, I found myself saying, You mentioned someone who stopped trying. Her lips parted just slightly. That was a long time ago. I waited. My husband, she said finally, We've been apart for years now. Different cities, different habits. Sometimes I forget he still has my last name. I didn't say anything. Just nodded, pretending to understand something that wasn't really mine to touch. She walked over to the window, resting her hands on the sill. The light caught her fingers. No ring, no tan line where one used to be. You? She asked softly, without turning. Me? Someone waiting for you somewhere? I shook my head, though she couldn't see it. Not really. Never got that far. When she turned around, her eyes softened, the kind of look that holds both empathy and caution. You will, she said. You're the kind who stays. It hit deeper than she meant it to. She took a slow step closer, maybe to reach for the towel still in my hand, maybe for something else. Her fingers brushed mine, not by accident this time. Her skin was warm, but the air between us wasn't. I should probably go, I said, even though I didn't move. She didn't either. It's late. You've done enough for one day. The words were right. The tone wasn't. I watched her exhale, a shallow breath that brushed my wrist as she reached to take the towel. My pulse jumped. She noticed. I saw it in the slight tremor that ran through her hand before she pulled back. Neither of us laughed. Neither of us looked away. The washer beeped softly, cycle complete, but neither of us moved to open it. She set the towel aside, voice quiet now. You fix more than you know. Before I could ask what she meant, the sound of rain hit the window, sudden hard, and she stepped closer, just enough for her shoulder to graze mine again. No words, just that tiny, electric pause before something breaks. And in that silence, the washer clicked off, and I realized the room had never felt so alive. The next time I saw her, it was supposed to be quick, a follow-up, she called it. The washer's acting strange again, her message read. I told myself it was just about the machine. But when she opened the door, the house already smelled like coffee and rain. She wore something casual, a loose sweater that looked soft enough to remember. Sorry, she said, brushing a damp curl from her face. It started rattling again. Machines do that sometimes, I said, when they're used too much. Her eyes met mine. You saying that's my fault? Maybe, I said before I could stop myself. She smiled, the kind that didn't reach all the way. Then I guess you'll have to fix me too. It was a joke, except it wasn't. The washer was fine. We both knew that within the first minute. But she stood near the counter, watching me work anyway, close enough that I could feel her breathing behind me. Every time I turned, she shifted, never far, never gone. When I reached for the screwdriver, our hands brushed again. It should have meant nothing. It didn't. Still good with your hands, she murmured. I froze. She noticed. I shouldn't say things like that, she added quickly, her voice thinning into something fragile. It's fine, I said. It's not. She turned away, but not before I caught the flicker of something. Shame, maybe, or fear of being seen wanting something she wasn't supposed to. The quiet stretched thin. Outside, the rain softened to a whisper. Inside, the air thickened. I could hear her breathing, could feel it when she stepped close enough to hand me a towel, pretending the movement meant nothing. People talk, you know, she said suddenly low like the thought had escaped. About what? About everything. About who comes and goes. I didn't answer. She moved around me, her shoulder brushing mine as she passed, the faint scent of coffee and soap trailing after. You shouldn't be here so late, she whispered. Then tell me to leave. She stopped mid-step. I don't want to. It landed between us like a secret too loud to take back. The air buzzed. My pulse matched it. She turned slowly, eyes steady now, like she'd made peace with something dangerous. I forget how young you are, she said. And you forget how alive you look when you say that, I replied. Her breath caught, barely but enough. The sound of footsteps from outside made us both flinch. She stepped back instantly, the distance sharp, practiced. A shadow passed the frosted glass of the front door, her neighbor's voice calling faintly. You home? She didn't answer. Neither did I. We stood still, barely breathing, until the voice faded. Then she exhaled, slow and trembling. You should go. I know, but I didn't move. Neither did she. Her hand lifted, just slightly, like she meant to touch my face but thought better of it. The hesitation was worse than the touch would have been. When she finally lowered it, her fingers brushed mine, light, fleeting, but it felt like a confession. And for the first time, neither of us pretended it was about the washer. The hesitation never really left the room. It hung there between us, invisible but solid, like the hum before thunder. After that night, I told myself to stay away. I didn't. She didn't ask me to come again, but the message came anyway. A short one, the dryer this time. No emoji. No excuse. Just the same house, the same rain waiting outside. When she opened the door, her hair was still damp, a few strands clinging to her cheek. She looked at me the way someone looks at a memory they shouldn't keep. "You didn't have to come," she said. "You knew I would." She didn't deny it. Just turned, leading me toward the laundry room again, her steps slower this time. The hum of the machine filled the silence, steady, rhythmic, too intimate for what it was. I knelt beside the dryer, though I didn't touch it. "What's wrong with it?" "Nothing," she said quietly. "Not really." That was the moment I looked up. She was standing closer than before, arms crossed, chin tilted down just slightly. Her eyes didn't move away. "You can't keep calling me for this," I said. "I know. So why do you?" She hesitated. "Because when you're here, it feels like the house remembers what warmth is." It hit harder than I expected. My throat tightened. She looked down, as if realizing what she'd said too late. I stood. We were too close now, her shoulder brushing my chest as she shifted, pretending to step back but not really moving. "You shouldn't say things like that," I said. "I shouldn't," she whispered. "But I meant it." Something in me cracked thin, quiet, invisible, but it was enough. I reached up, brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. My fingers lingered longer than they should have, tracing the faint warmth of her skin. She didn't flinch. Her breath caught. "You're making this harder," she said, voice low, trembling between control and want. "Then tell me to stop." She didn't. Instead, she exhaled a small sound that felt like surrender. My hand fell to her shoulder, and I felt her lean, just slightly, into it. The world outside vanished, replaced by the slow thud of my heartbeat against her silence. "You don't know what this would cost me," she whispered near my ear. "Then why haven't you walked away?" Her eyes closed. "Because I forgot how to." There was no more distance left, just breath and heat and the faint hum of the dryer behind us. My forehead brushed hers. Neither of us moved closer, but neither of us pulled back. "Say something," she murmured. "I can't." Her lips parted, a tremor of air between us, a heartbeat from something irreversible when the phone rang. Once, twice. She froze. I stepped back. On the counter, her phone kept flashing a name she didn't want to see. She reached for it slowly, eyes never leaving mine. "I have to get that," she whispered. But she didn't move. Not yet. And in that fragile, suspended moment, we both knew. The next word, the next breath, would change everything. The phone stopped ringing, but the silence it left behind felt worse. She didn't answer it, just stared at the screen until it went dark, her thumb hovering above the name. When she finally set it down, she looked at me like she'd been caught doing something she couldn't name. "It's him, isn't it?" I asked quietly. She didn't respond, just turned away, pressing her palms against the counter. "He's not supposed to call anymore." My chest tightened. "But he does. Sometimes," she admitted, "when he remembers what he's missing, or when he thinks I might have moved on." I wanted to ask, "Have you?" But the words caught behind my teeth. Her shoulders sank. "You don't understand. He's not a bad man. Just someone who can't stand being forgotten. And you?" She turned then, eyes tired but sharp. "I don't know what I am anymore." Something inside me shifted. All the quiet glances, the laughter that never reached her eyes, the way she lingered after saying goodbye, it all fit too neatly now. She wasn't lonely by accident. She was someone still half belonging to a ghost. "I shouldn't have asked you to come," she whispered. "You didn't ask," I said. "You just knew I would." Her breath hitched, that small, human sound that comes right before truth breaks loose. "You make it sound like I wanted this." "Didn't you?" She flinched, like the question touched something raw. "You think this is simple?" I stepped closer. "No, but I think you stopped pretending it isn't." The space between us vanished again. Her back to the counter, my hand braced beside her hip. Her fingers trembled against the marble, but she didn't move away. You shouldn't look at me like that, she said. Then stop giving me reasons to. Her laugh came out thin, almost bitter. You're too young to talk like that. Maybe, but you don't look away when I do. Her eyes flickered, guilt, want, fear, all tangled together. She reached up suddenly, fingers brushing my jaw like she was trying to memorize something she'd never allow herself to keep. You don't know what this would do to me, she whispered. Then why are you shaking? She exhaled, eyes closing. Because I want to stop before I can't. A faint sound cut through the moment. The faint vibration of a second message, still from the same name. The one she hadn't answered. Her hand fell away from my face, but her voice cracked when she said, "He's coming back." For a second, everything in me went still. When? Tomorrow. He wants to talk. I stepped back, but the distance didn't help. The air still buzzed between us. Then this, I started, but she interrupted softly. "Isn't over," she said. "Even if it should be." Her words trembled like a confession. And, as I turned to leave, she caught my wrist, her touch gentle, desperate. "Promise me you won't come tomorrow," she said. I didn't answer, because we both knew I would. The next evening felt like walking into the end of something. The street was dark, the air heavy with the kind of quiet that warns you not to knock, but I did anyway. She opened the door, slower this time, her expression unreadable. "You shouldn't be here." "I know." Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but no words came. She stepped aside instead, letting me in. The house smelled different, sharper, like something recently cleaned to cover another scent. "He came?" I asked. She nodded. "Left an hour ago." The silence that followed was unbearable. Every part of me wanted to fill it, to ask what he'd said, if he'd touched her, if she'd let him. But her eyes said enough, tired, red at the corners, yet somehow lighter. "He wanted to stay," she whispered finally. But I told him no. I swallowed hard. "Because of me?" Her gaze fell to the floor. "Because of me." She moved toward the kitchen, but I caught her wrist before she could pass. Her skin was cold this time, like she'd been holding on to something she didn't want to feel. "Then why do you look like that?" I asked. "Like what?" "Like you lost something you weren't ready to let go of." She didn't answer, just looked at me, long, unguarded, until the air between us started to burn. I took a step closer. She didn't move. "Tell me to go," I said. She shook her head. "You wouldn't." I reached up, fingers brushing her jaw, tracing the line that trembled when she tried to hold still. "You're right." Her breath shuddered out. "You don't know what I want." "Yes," I said. "I do." For a heartbeat, nothing existed but the small distance left between us. My thumb grazed the corner of her mouth, and she leaned into it, eyes closing as though she'd finally stopped fighting something that had already happened. Then she whispered, "You make it so hard to remember who I'm supposed to be, and you make it impossible to forget," I said. That broke her. Not in pain, in relief. She leaned forward, her forehead resting against mine, our breaths tangling in the quiet. The closeness was unbearable. The warmth of her skin, the faint tremor in her hand as she gripped the edge of my shirt. "Say something," she breathed. "I don't need to." Her lips hovered a breath away from mine. Not touching, not daring, just suspended in the kind of stillness that rewrites every rule. But she was the one who pulled back first. Slowly, carefully, like it took everything she had. Her voice came out raw. "If I don't stop now, I never will." I nodded, though my hands didn't move. "Then stop." She looked up at me, eyes full, steady, and smiled the kind of smile that only hurts because it's true. "You think this is goodbye?" "I think it's the only way it means something," I said. For once, there were no more pauses. No half steps. Just understanding, messy, real, complete. When she finally turned away, the room felt lighter, but my chest didn't. And as the door closed behind me, I realized we hadn't ruined anything. We just made it impossible to forget. Weeks passed before I saw her again. Not because I wanted distance, but because we both needed to know if what lingered between us was real or just a moment built from quiet rooms and unsaid things. When she finally called, her voice was softer. "The washer's fine," she said, "but the coffee isn't." I laughed. It was the first time either of us had sounded unafraid. When I arrived, she was sitting by the kitchen window, sunlight touching the edges of her hair. She looked lighter. Not younger, lighter, like someone who'd stopped holding her breath. "You look different," I said. "So do you," she replied, smiling faintly. Less conflicted. I pulled out the chair across from her. Maybe I just stopped pretending. The pause between us wasn't heavy anymore. It felt peaceful. The air still carried that quiet charge, but it didn't hurt to breathe it in. I told him the truth, she said. About us. About how I felt. Not everything, just enough. I hesitated. And he said he always knew, she murmured. But hearing it out loud made it real. So he let go. She reached for her mug, then stopped halfway. My hand met hers without thinking. The touch wasn't desperate this time, just certain. Familiar. "You don't have to fix anything anymore," I said. She smiled. Maybe I just needed someone who saw what was still working. We sat like that for a while, hands intertwined on the table, words replaced by small sounds. The hum of the fridge, the faint wind against the window. Every second felt ordinary, but I think that's what made it right. "People will still talk," I said quietly. "They already do," she replied. "But for once, I don't care." Her thumb brushed the back of my hand, slow and absent-minded. It wasn't the rush of before. It was steadier, something built to last. When she stood, I followed, and she rested her head against my chest. No words, just the sound of her breathing syncing with mine. I pressed a kiss to her forehead, gentle, almost reverent, and she smiled against me. "You know," she whispered, "for someone who fixes things, you broke my quiet life pretty easily." "Maybe it needed breaking," I said. We stayed that way, sunlight creeping across the floor, both of us finally still. The story that started with a broken washer ended in a house that didn't feel empty anymore. And when she finally pulled back, her eyes held that same warmth I'd seen the first day. Except now, it wasn't hiding behind fear. No grand promises. No dramatic ending. Just two people sitting close enough for their shoulders to touch, quietly deciding not to let go this time. She glanced toward the window, smiling. "You really do know how to make things spin." "Only the ones worth fixing," I said. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?